Selling that many treasury bonds would collapse bond prices, which would increase interest rates through the roof, and it would destroy the value of their holdings too. In other words, the biggest foreign owners of US debt have just as much of a reason to keep our borrowing costs as low as we do. The more US treasuries a country owns, the more their economy is tied to the fate of the US economy. So it's kind of ironic and counterintuitive, and no, foreign countries don't actually control the US. In reality, the single biggest holder of public debt is the Federal Reserve, with over $6 trillion on its balance sheet. Now that debt is owned by investors like state and local pension funds, banks, insurance companies. If you own treasuries or bonds, as people call them, you are part of that. And you own a part of America's future tax revenue, and you make money when the government pays interest. So if you're a bondholder, you partially own America. The problem is, at a certain point, investors don't want to lend money to the US because our debt is considered risky. Can the US sustain itself on this path forever? Most economists say no.
The US federal debt is on an unsustainable path. It's not at an unsustainable level, and no one really knows how much further we can go. We're running very large deficits at full employment, and this is a situation that we very much need to address. Sooner or later we'll have to, and sooner is better than later.
And if you're going to lend your money to someone that is considered very risky, that's on an unsustainable path, you would want a higher interest rate for giving them your money. That means the more money we print and the more treasury bonds we create, the US has to incentivize investors with higher and higher rates, and that will cost the country more and more in interest. It's the infinite feedback loop. That's one of the reasons why President Trump wants to lower interest rates so the US could refinance at a more reasonable level. Now, if companies and banks can print unlimited amounts of money and the US has so much debt, then couldn't we just change the system and vote the right people into power and just make it all better? Turns out, that's really hard to do. And nowhere is that becoming more clear than politics. In 2024, for example, 100 billionaire families spent a record $2.6 billion in federal races, about 1/6 of total spending. The top 50 individual donors